finally, now we have the alactic system. And remember, this is the one that provides energy for short duration, high intensity actions. Okay? Different than the lactic system, because the lactic system is sustained high intensity actions. This one is short duration. Here's what the sprints or the high intensity periods have to look like. They have to be 1 to 10 seconds in length. Short. It can be with running training, okay, but it also can be done with a ball. You can see the picture here. This is a 1v1. A quick 1v1 that's less than 10 seconds. It's a great way to train this system. Maybe you can have players sprint onto a ball. The fastest one becomes an attacker. The slower one becomes a defender, and then they go into a 1v1. Many ways to do it. Remember, it's an art, not a science, but that's the way it goes. Okay, the distance of the runs, we got to talk about distance, 5 to 40 meters. Okay, why 5 to 40 meters? Why not 100 meters or 200 meters? Somebody in the chat, tell me why. Why am I suggesting to use those relatively short distances to train this system? Let's see in the chat here. Yeah, because if it's longer than that, the lactic system will kick in. You're right. And the other reason is this distance is much more relevant to what you do in soccer. In soccer, the average distance of a sprint is about 10 to 20 meters. So if you go, 5 meters on the low end and 40 meters on the high end, yeah, Zion, it's more realistic. You got it. Okay. You will rarely, if ever, see a soccer player do a full sprint for more than 30 meters. 40 meters is like, we're talking a counter attack where a fullback, or somebody wins the ball way back in their own end and they're going all the way, to the opponent's goal. Okay. How does Messi define the odds? Okay. Well, so Messi does longer sprints. He does. Okay. But if you look at the time where Messi is running as fast as he can, it's not going to be more than 30 or 40 meters. You can look at it. You can see here and there you might see, but they don't sprint the whole length of the field from one end to the other. There's a period of time where they're kind of building up speed or accelerating, period of time where they slow down. Okay. In any case, it's not 100% the whole time. So that's a good distance, it's a good range of distances to use, 5 to 40 meters. All right. Now we'll talk about the intensity. Well, the movements themselves have to be 100%. Each run has to be as fast as they can. I'm going to give some links afterwards to videos where I show the best way to do this in soccer training is to have competitions. One player competing against another player in some type of a race or something, because that's much better. That's much more motivating to players than just putting them on a line and telling them all to run. And, if you have a competition, automatically what you get is you get greater speed, greater intensity. Players want to win. So that's how you get 100% of the movements. But the overall activity, this is where it's different than the lactic system. If you recall, when you train the anaerobic lactic system, you want the movements to be very fast, but it's sustained. So the rating of perceived exertion or the intensity will be much higher, maximal, 10 out of 10. Here, it's moderate. Why is it moderate? Because you're not sprinting for a long period of time. 5, 10, 15 meters, we're talking only a couple of seconds. Even 40 meters, that's only, 4.5 to 5 seconds for most players. It's not that long. So it's not enough to really cause a lot of fatigue. So the RPE will be 4 to 6. It'll be 40% to 60%. Speed training, if you want to train to improve speed, you can't have intensity of 10 out of 10. It doesn't make sense because it means there's too much lactic acid, there's too much fatigue. You cannot run as fast as you can when you're tired. And you all, if you know as a player or coach, you've experienced that. It's a universal truth. Okay, the rest variables, just like with the lactic system, okay, the rest variables have to be longer. We're talking 10 seconds up to 2 minutes. And again, if the work period is only 1 to 10 seconds and the rest periods are 10 seconds up to 2 minutes, then we've got, again, these high work to rest ratios, which are 1 to 5 up to 1 to 10. And it's the same idea here as with the lactic system. You need a lot of rest in between each run, or else you're going to get fatigue. And again, the rest has to be passive. So we've spoken now about all three energy systems: the aerobic system, the anaerobic lactic system, and the anaerobic alactic system. And I've given you again how to follow that model of sprint, rest, sprint, which, remember, that's a fractal of the week, the month, the year, It always looks like that, that wave-like pattern. That's what sprint, rest, sprint looks like. And I'm just going to ask, is there only one way to do it? Or are there thousands of ways to do it? Somebody tell me in the chat. Okay, and remember that great quote at the beginning. That training is not, planning training is not simply a science, it's an art. Is there one way to do it, or are there thousands of ways to do it? Anybody? Maybe I've given away the answer. It's too easy. Of course, there are thousands of ways to do it, right? It's not, there's scientific principles. This is the science. I've given it to you here. Okay, but within that, it's an art. There's many, many, many ways you can train these systems. Doesn't need to be exactly the way I do it or the way I've shown you. Okay, so that's it for the presentation. Okay, as I said, there's some resources, and I know Anthony, I'll send out the PDF of this so you can send it to whoever's watching and whoever wants to see this. And one of the resources, these are again, as I mentioned, I've got my YouTube channel. I'm very active on that channel. There's lots of, I've got whole videos and presentations about monitoring and tracking training load, periodization of training. There's coach education clinics that we've put online on video that show examples of aerobic training and speed training with the ball and so on. There's some articles that I've written. They're all in here, these links. Okay, and finally, that's me. If you'd like to get in touch with me, that's my email address. It's richard@soccerfitness.ca. And these are my, my websites, soccerfitness.ca, and our newer one is speedtraining.ca. And I'll tell you that, we rebranded to speed training simply because we started to work with athletes, not just soccer. I still work with lots of soccer players, but we started to work with athletes from other sports as well. So as I said, I'm more than happy, of course, to stay and to answer any questions that anybody has. And thank you very much again, Anthony, for having me, and for everybody else for your time and listening. So.
Thank you so much, man, for the information. I've learned a lot from your presentation to us, and I know, the participants on the different social media platforms also on here with some of the questions and some of the, joining in with you to get information. I know I've learned a lot. And why is you talking about rest and recuperating? I went cycling this morning and find my left foot dying on me just now.
Well, there you go, right? So it's that's the evidence of that principle in action. Yeah.
Yeah, find my left foot dying on me just now. Muscles are pulling here, so I shift around the chair a little bit. For the information. Guys, if you have any questions, Richard is a co-host on the show right now, so he would be able to see those questions that you could put up some of those questions there. And I know, Richard, you're seeing some of the information, thanking you from for your presentation, because we have not just here we are on, but other media platforms that people are logging in and also taking in the information. Quite interesting information that you share with us today. And from a coaching standpoint, it's really guides decisions that we make with the kids that we are in charge of on soccer field, and how we do our training with them, and not guessing when we go out there to work with kids and expect those kids to put out, to run at 100 miles per hour for 90 minutes, the ups and the downs and the adjustments that they would make and that kind of stuff. So quite interesting, Richard. And I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know you're very busy because I follow you on the social media platforms, and you are, with some of the top coaches and some of the top educators around the world that you're on their program sharing knowledge. And we want to thank you so much. As you can see from the guests, some of the guests who are here sending back some lines to you. You can feel free if you want to send back a text to them and tell them thanks, or you can verbally do it, Richard. But I want to thank you so much for coming on today, spending some time with us to give us that information that we would need, not just as a coach, but as a player, so we could understand our bodies better, so we can perform better when we get that rest and recuperate on how we push ourselves in terms of training. I'm seeing something here. I believe we needed this. Thanks for explaining and giving us, you know, the acknowledgement of that. That is so important. Guys, also too, I want to thank you guys for logging on.
I do see Anthony see a couple of questions.
Sure,
So
sure. Feel free.
I may, and of course I'm happy and
Feel free. Feel free. Yes,
yeah.
feel free.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that everybody, you know, that you liked it, and hopefully, you know, you learned something and all that. So I want to speak to, you know, what Anthony said, but also, so I see Dimitri's, you know, kind of comment here. You know, we needed this, um, because I just saw that, and I'm thinking. So I'll just tell you that, you know, when I created that course, you know, the soccer fitness trainers course is coming up on 7 years now. That you know, the impetus, like the reason that what drove me to create that course was because I had done all of my licenses up to the highest level, up to the A license. At that time, Canada didn't have a pro license, but in any case, so you know, and even in the top licenses, I noticed that there's very little information given to coaches about planning physical training. So it's sort of it's a real gap in coach education. And I'll tell you one of the real, I guess, challenges that I had with it, and why I was driven to, you know, to create that course was, you know, again, I'm talking about the top level. So you know, in professional clubs here in Canada and in the national teams, there are sports scientists and fitness coaches at those levels. There are. So maybe the coaches can get away with not having that knowledge, but that's a few teams. That's, you know, we don't even, we just started with a professional league here in Canada, and there's only 6 or 7 clubs there. So it's like there's only a few. The bulk of the coaching and training that's going on here is at the amateur level. You know, again, I was speaking to Anthony before we started here that Canada has almost 1 million registered soccer players. Most of those are youth players, and most of those are amateur. And in those environments, there are no fitness coaches that are working day in and day out with the players. It's only the coach. So coaches get licenses. They don't learn about planning physical training, which is a very important thing to learn. They don't learn it. And then they're the ones that are responsible for planning their training. And that's when they get to, you know, these two kind of, you know, mistakes. I don't want to, you know, use harsh language, but it's, you know, these are suboptimal ways to train. Overtraining, that's sickness and injury, and undertraining, that's no results. And that's what we have here because there is a lack of understanding of planning physical training. So yeah, you needed it. I mean, I'm happy to hear that, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so, you know, I guess, you know, even aggressive with teaching this stuff and putting it out there, and, you know, again, promoting my course and all this stuff, because it's really necessary, especially at the amateur level. And one of the things I like to say is that whether you like it or not, like if you're a soccer coach, you are a fitness coach. So you don't get to be a soccer coach and not be a fitness coach, because you're the one that's planning the exercise that the players are doing on the pitch. So thank you for that. I see, so Redme here is saying, do you know what are requirements for university in Canada for Caribbean athletes? So I don't know if you mean physical requirements or just requirements in general. I'll speak physically. I mean, yes, absolutely. I can tell you.
I think Richard, they are referring to maybe could be the S.A.Ts. I think is more in line with the requirements of our certificates and you know, qualifications and S.A.Ts. So if I am not mistaken, Remy.
Yeah.
If you can,
I would say yes, academic. Okay, so you know what? I don't want to give any wrong information. This is what I do know, but what I'll say too is, you know, maybe even Anthony or you know, some other people that are more involved on the administrative side of the university, if there's ever any other guests you have. But I mean, I know you know, obviously you need a high school diploma. That goes without saying. There is no SAT to get into a Canadian university, like in the States. You know, they have the you know, the aptitude exams and stuff. So there isn't any SAT per se. I do know I've been involved in a few different universities where we've had international students. No one from Trinidad, but there was one player from Jamaica and I worked with a school where, you know, female player that came from Jamaica, and believe it or not, another one that came from Japan. Okay, so as far as I know, there's a high school diploma, and then there is some type of sort of equivalency that you need for the program you're getting into. So if you're going to study business, then maybe you need, to meet whatever the requirements are for the business school. If you're going to study kinesiology or sports science, so the diploma isn't enough. There are specific requirements. If it's kinesiology, you might have had to have taken, biology and physics and got a certain, standard of grade there or whatever. So now, again, as I said, and I see some people in the chat are putting, maybe they know more than me. As I said, I'm not involved really on the on the admission side, so I don't want to give any false information or speak to something that I don't know more about. But I would say it's not a bad. One thing I can tell you from my experience in the national team is that I know that there are lots of Caribbeans in Canada. Actually, in my city in Toronto, we have a pretty large. There's a lot of Jamaicans, Trinidadians, even Guyanese. There's quite a lot, and a lot of them through their parents or even themselves, they've got nationality for Jamaica, Trinidad, everything, and a lot of them end up. A lot of Canadians go and play for both the women's and men's national teams in those countries. And then there are often times where there are, as I said, Caribbean students that do come, to study here in Canada. So there's a nice connection both ways. I think the Guyanese women's national team is like 60% Canadian. So there's a lot of
yes, there's a lot of Canadians on the Guyanese team. A lot of them.
Yeah. So there's a nice connection there, and as I said, I mean, I've been I was lucky with the national team. I got to go all over the Caribbean, so it was great, and would love to continue those connections again. But so Redmi, sorry I wasn't able to answer your question there.
But I think Hillary Brewster answered the question, because Hillary has a son who is studying right now in Canada.
Oh,
so I think, yeah, so CXC is accepted GCE subjects, and I think also too you need a science subject too, just like in the US you would need that information too. So once again, guys, thank you so much for the questions. Richard, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. And we are going to ask you to come back again in the near future to give us some more information too on it, because we want to really get the kids the information that is needed, so they can go on to be better athletes. And also too, as you know, Richard, it's going to be on my Facebook page and also too on my YouTube channel, which is AR Student Athlete Soccer Scholarships Academy. It's going to be there too. We're going to edit it out and put it in different sequences, and then we're going to have it on the YouTube page there, so people can go in to gather more information on it. If you miss some information, you could go back and research some of the information that Richard gave us today. So Richard, thank you so much again for your time, sir. Thank you very much for enlightening us with some wonderful information that is really needed in terms of it. You are welcome, guys. It's an honor and a privilege to be here on a Saturday to bring different guests from around the world to share information. It's all about helping each other, creating opportunities, and knowledge is power. Very much so. Knowledge is power. If you know better, you can do better. And it's about getting yourself ready. We have a number of guests coming up. We have Sir John from England coming up next week. Sir John, he worked with the Liverpool. He was the director of the Liverpool Academy. He also coached and managed a couple English teams in international competitions. I think he's locked down here with us. He's going to be there with us next week as we continue to go forward. And please note, if you're not part of our WhatsApp page, 954-380-4829, please just text me there. I could send you the information, because that is where I put all the different information from coaches who are looking for kids. And as you know, right now, Richard, right now is recruiting season right now in the US, because the season is finished and coaches are recruiting right now for the new season that is going to start. And then November, December, again, they're going to go back into recruiting. So that is where all the information is for coaches. And I have coaches from different colleges, universities sending the information. Anthony, we need, a number 9, a number 8, these type of players, and we put that information there. And that is where you're going to get the information so you can apply for schools. Thanks again, Richard. Have a wonderful day. God's blessings and blessings to you and your family. And thank you so much again, Richard. Thank you guys for being with us again today. And yet another successful program where we can gain and learn and grow. Have a wonderful day and a blessed weekend. Bye-bye.